The day after the Super Bowl. Now we got a pretty long drought until we get real football. Welcome in on a Monday. Yeah, just counting down to the spring game. If you're a Michigan fan, maybe you watch some of that other football. Maybe the college football is the only focus for you. But you do know that the Super Bowl played last night. We're here ready to talk some Michigan football, and we're joined by Jim Scarcelli, the former Wolverine, who is on the screen and on your podcast. Scar, how'd you like the Super Bowl last night?
Yeah, it was, you would have thought it would have been a little closer game, but man, it's just the big bully. Denny, I talked to a friend of mine that he played, he knows a guy who plays in the NFL now. And he was telling me that he told my friend that there's two teams in the NFL. When you play them, you are sore. You are thoroughly sore for a good week. And it's the Philadelphia Eagles and the Baltimore Ravens. And they were the bully yesterday. You watch Philly, you watch their defense, Denny, and you know what I was seeing? I was seeing that Georgia defense that slapped us around a couple of years ago. Just big, strong, thick, dominant, front seven, dominant football. I thought, they've just done a great job drafting, and they were just bigger, stronger, tougher, man, up front.
Yeah, and they've got a really good offensive line. It's the one thing, you think about it, whatever side you were pulling for, and there are a lot of Lion fans that didn't even want to watch the game because it's still too soon because losing to Washington. But Lion fans, I think after the dust settles here, you might feel at least, I don't know if you feel good, but you watch Philadelphia. They have a dominant offensive line that's big, what they're able to do on defense, and they draft. You said it. They draft really well. Brad Holmes drafts really well. He does really good in free agency, and that's what's going on in Detroit. So maybe a little bit of a glimmer of hope other than it being Mahomes, which I don't think anybody wanted to see Mahomes do it. I know Michigan fans, that was the one thing. There was a little push if they got three that if Tom Brady, who was going to be up in the booth, was, he wasn't going to be the GOAT anymore, but he can rest easy for at least a couple of years. We're going to also talk about Michigan transfers coming up schedule. We got a few other things that we'll throw your way, but we thought we would start with the Super Bowl yesterday. And then a guy who didn't look like he was going to get to play anymore this year after he got injured during the season. Brandon Graham was able to come back and play in the Super Bowl and go out on top. How about that?
Yeah, I got nothing but respect for him. He has been just a great role model, representing Detroit, representing Michigan. Never forgot where he came from. I've met him, shook his hand, talked with him. The guy is he's a great ambassador for the city of Detroit. He's always looking to help guys. I know some things that this guy's done in the community, spending his money to help kids, and he's been great for Michigan. Great player. I remember when he was recruited, man. He was a 5-star kid. He wasn't he's not the tallest guy, but just explosive, athletic. I think they were maybe thought he might be a linebacker at first. But I'd love to see him on television, Denny. I'd love to see him in a booth doing a game. Got 15, whatever many years he's played. I think he would do great. But it was great for him. That's I like both these teams, Danny. I do. I just like them both. They both are well coached. They just good representation. They don't talk junk. They don't do ignorant stuff. So I like both of these teams, but I'd sure rather have seen the Lions in there. But I love Brandon Graham, man. Go blue.
I'm with you on that. Everything, echo all your sentiments there. Mahomes, I've never seen him play a worse game, but it goes to show you, and the Commanders were able to move the ball on the Philadelphia defense, and it's not like they came into their own and they got hot at the right time, but I wasn't expecting the offensive line to look that bad for the Chiefs. But it's a good reminder that you could have the greatest player at least playing right now, and people that we're talking about, 3 in a row hunting down Tom Brady, but you better protect him a little bit or you can end up looking like he did last night. And he looked bad.
Okay, well, I see the whole thing a little different, Danny. I see Kansas City losing as a team, okay? And I see the other Super Bowl championships about the team, not one guy. So there was a breakdown in a lot of areas for Kansas City yesterday, in my opinion. Philadelphia is, Denny, when Alabama dominated football for like 15 years or was always there, top 3 or 4, Nick Saban recruited the biggest, baddest, toughest front 7 offensively, tight ends, fullbacks, offensive line, and the same thing. He just had bigger, better players in there. And you watch Philly, and that was a big part of what they had. Vic Fangio did a great job on defense. I thought it would be a low-scoring game. I don't know if you remember. I think my picks, I think I may have shared it last week. I had Philly because I just thought their defense was bigger and better. I thought it would be an under. I ended up cashing out at halftime because once you're up 24-0, you're going to get a couple cheap ones. But then I had the amount of carries for Hurts and Mahomes, and I won on Hurts, but I lost on Mahomes. But, Hurts, Danny, the ability to run the football, when you run your quarterback, I mean, we watched Notre Dame 9 times the quarterback ran the football that first drive in the national championship game against Ohio State. 9 times. So if I'm defending Kansas City and I'm defending Philly, man, there's a big part of me that would rather defend Kansas City because they don't have the quarterback run blended into their offense, the predetermined quarterback run. And that's in Hurts carried the ball like that was the easiest bet. I should have bet more. But the fact that you have to honor that changes everything in your defensive scheme. You understand? Just even if you run it just a couple times a half, and that was a big factor in the game. But listen, their offensive line had trouble. But normally Mahomes, he got bumped. The offensive lineman got stuck. But you got to feel that and get out of the pocket if you feel pressure. He's done those things when pressure's broke down. He's used his feet. But Philly was just bigger, the bully, the bigger, better bully, man.
Yeah, and yet Kansas City, you're right about that. Last night, Kansas City had won all of those close games. They had won 2 Super Bowls in a row. They had the number 1 seed, and they rolled into that game. And Patrick Mahomes is being looked at and singled out as the best player in the game for good reason. And then he had a terrible game. I mean, offensive line or whatever. I mean, he was throwing it to the other team. When you get it back before half, he's scrambling, he's making a pass. If that was another quarterback, we'd be talking about bench him, get him out of there. Guy's a joker. I mean, here he is, one of the superstars and the faces of the league, and he fell flat on his face. And so, yeah, you could talk about the team around him. Yeah, team around him, especially his offensive line, didn't play well. But he's got egg on his face.
Wait a minute. Did they lose because the offensive line sucked this time? Yet they won the other 2 because of Mahomes. Is that what you're saying?
No. I think that
I'm just trying to figure it out. They got their ass kicked yesterday because of the offensive line, but they won the other 2 because of Mahomes. Is that the theory?
No, hey Scar,
I'm just playing with you, B.
I know. I'm just telling you, like that 99% of the people that watch the game, they're not just all saying, they don't just chalk it up every morning like, well, it's a team game and everybody has to play as a team, or you go out there and you lose the game. Not everybody coached for 25 years and played the game and everything else. We look at the stars and we look how they perform. And we could argue it all day. Mahomes had his worst game in his pro career on the biggest stage. And he crapped the bed. You want to talk about, well, it's the team around him or anything else? That's what 99% of the people are talking about with this game.
I agree. He did not play well. I did not.
Go ahead.
Their run game got their ass kicked, which always helps their pass game. And, Danny, their offense has not been great this year. And that was one of the reasons I took Philly, because I just thought Philly's defense is shown up, and KC's offense has been questionable. They've been winning with defense. But anyway,
you're right about that. But I wanted to say one thing when you say that. All of that's true, and yet Mahomes, that one single guy found a way. That one single guy, whether it's against the Bills, whether it's against the Ravens, whether it was last year when they weren't the 1 seed and they had to win 2 playoff games on the road, and he went into the Super Bowl and won the game. This guy looked like he was the greatest of all time, and then he crapped the bed. So that was a huge shocker to everybody that was watching the game. And yeah, he didn't have a running game. Yeah, his wide receivers were hurt. Yeah, his offensive line was a swinging gate. All of those things were true. That's part of the amazing thing. Most of America still bet Kansas City because of all the one-score games that, 17-0 and one-score games in the postseason. And that Mahomes is, besides Brady, is looked at as the greatest player to ever play the game. And last night he looked very pedestrian or worse.
Yeah. Oh, hey, I felt their offense was average all year, and they took a step down this year.
It was average last year, and they won it.
Their defense was what I think. Their defense is what got them to the Super Bowl. I think their defense elevated. I think Spagnuolo is one of the best. They got Dana out there, but they ran into a team that just was bigger, better, badder dudes, man. And then Hurts' ability to run the football. It was. A lot of coaching, two great defensive coordinators. Vic Fangio was with Jim forever, man. When Jim got hired at Michigan, I was hoping that he would have brought Fangio with him. I think he tried to, and he couldn't get him here. Aaron says the defensive line was impressive. Zero. You're right, man. They didn't have to pressure. They didn't have to bring more than 4 guys, 6 sacks. But that's drafting, man. That's why that championship was won, Danny, the same way Michigan has to win, same way Ohio State was won their championship. You got to have the right guy, bring the right players in, and then you got to out-coach the guy too. You can't just have the best players.
Scar, how about this comparison that Michigan is Kendrick Lamar and OSU is Drake? So, you got any thoughts on that? Antoine's got a thought on the game. He says,
not like us, baby.
Important. Why having a running game is important because one man can't be great all the time. Sometimes even the great ones need help. The percentages dictate that eventually.
That's right, man. You got to have a little run game and a defense. And Philly just, it's always a team, man.
Okay. All right. Well, how about the dust has settled? The transfers are in. The recruits for 25 are in. Michigan was able to add one on signing day, but they've got all of the pieces. Now, there is a spring window too. So as soon as you think, okay, the season's all set, there still is a season number 2, as you know, Scar. What about as you look at it and think about how Michigan did in the transfer portal?
Danny, let me just say this to you. I coached 25 years of high school. I know a lot of guys that are still coaching. I talk to them. I get a feel for some things, about what's going on. And let me just say this, Michigan is spending money. So that narrative, we are right there with the top people in the country spending money on that roster. Okay, so if we want a guy that has played at Michigan, he ain't leaving. We're gonna make sure he gets squared away. So don't ever believe that narrative that we're not paying guys. Joe Lynn and that crew and our alum, I'm telling you right now, they're a factor. And it kind of sucks. I'll tell you, and this is something I've talked to some of my friends about. You really can't tell, Danny. Now you cannot. Like when I see that recruit, how good a coach is as a recruiter.
Yeah.
You have the assistant coaches rankings, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think you can throw that in the garbage now, because if you and I are going to see some kid and you're from Ohio State and I'm from Notre Dame and whatever, the guy with the biggest bag is really swinging a lot. That's all. That's happening. So that's. The ability to recruit as an assistant coach, I think, is minimized a whole hell of a lot. But I'm hearing some real good things about some guys from some coaches I've talked to who talk to their players. And the big name that I keep hearing is this receiver from Indiana, flat out stud,
Donovan McCulley.
Yeah, that's a name that is come up. That is. And that's a position of we need a game changer there, man. We need a guy that our quarterbacks can make some easy pass. Kid's 6'5", but I've heard great things about him, and the running back from Alabama is a kid that's real impressive too. But in general, all of these guys have been impressive. You know, they're really impressive. Again, these guys do more, Danny, than when I played this time of year. We were not allowed to throw the football around so much now. These guys can do drills and 7-on-7, and they can do stuff. When I played, this was you just lifted and ran. And I don't know how many years they've been able to do more football stuff. I don't know when that change came, but these guys are seeing each other and they're able to do drills, you know, pass protection and run drills. But yeah, a lot of confidence, Richard, in our running back room. I think our running back room is going to be a real physical running back room, and guys that'll knock guys over to get the extra yard, and guys that'll make guys miss to get the extra yard. The Alabama kid, I should know his damn name, but he's a guy that is physical. But I've heard real good things about the receiver, and you know, I'm gonna have some thoughts next week about the quarterback stuff. I'm hearing some things there that are interesting.
Justice Haynes is the
Haynes, but
transfer from Alabama. Scar, let me follow up. When you were talking about money, I see that AJ was mentioning money, and it used to be where Michigan went in there and they could recruit, they could present, but when it got down to it, you know, they were turning their pockets out and they were rabbit ears. They couldn't say anything about, yeah, come on in. You know, now it's a little bit different, and Antoine's talking about they're doing a good job, and it's not just spending money recklessly, but they do have money to go in there and play the game with how the rules are out there right now.
Yeah, we're in the game financially, man. And Antoine, you're right. It looks like Sharon Moore is building a complete roster. I mean, you look at Philly, you're going to lose guys. They lost a starting linebacker. You know, the Lions just couldn't overcome all the injuries they had. You look at Ohio State, you got to build the freaking roster, man. Our basketball team right now, Denny, 1 year just blew up the roster. He brought 9 guys in, and we're competing. You know, you got to be a good coach, and you got to be able to identify great players, guys that fit in, put your puzzle together with guys that'll work together, you know, and it's the same thing in football, man. So, yeah, Antoine, I am a believer big time in the way we've been putting this team together for depth and for guys that can, you know, a team talented enough to win a national championship. That's what I believe.
I like how fired up you are on the.
I just, you know, I'm hearing things, Danny, and I think there's a lot of confidence, man.
What else are you hearing? The confidence, like that
a lot of these, you know, I'll tell you some more confidence I'm hearing is that some of these young defensive linemen that maybe I was concerned with.
Yeah.
I don't think there's people that believe they're really, really performing well, are going to perform well. You know, Pierce, some of these guys.
You feel like, are there any shades of like 84 to this 2024 season at 84?
It's amazing. I know it's interesting. Yeah. It was 40 years ago. I played 1984, 6-5, and then we finished 6-6. And this team, you know, same kind of thing, and not what they wanted, but no, but I like our schedule. You know, Denny, I don't know if you had it on your list. I wanted to go over the toughest 6 games, I think, on our schedule. If you want to wait till, if you want to hit that. But Denny, I think there's a confident down on State Street at Schembeckler Hall. I think there's a high level of confidence with the coaches because of the players we brought in and just how things look to be coming together now.
Let's talk about that schedule first. I want to tell everyone that we are here because of Rivals.com, an Amazing Blue review, and we are urging you, if you want to be in the know, to join up. You want more Michigan coverage. You want to know what's going on even more with Michigan. This is the ticket to do it. It's the Amazing Blue review. Go to michigan.rivals.com. It is the place to be. Now, Scar, you're talking about the schedule. I've got the road games. There's 6 of them. that are up there that starts with a non-conference in Oklahoma. There's Nebraska. They got to go out to USC, up to East Lansing. The home games, I don't know if here's the easy one, Ohio State. They've been beating you 5 in a row. I don't know. It feels like 5 in a row is in order. I don't know, Washington and Wisconsin, but these road games up at the top, those might be the 2 toughest ones. How are you looking at it when you look at the toughest games?
I think Ohio State's always going to be the toughest because it's they got the best players. They recruited the best players. They got the bankroll. But so Ohio State's number 1. I think our second toughest game, Danny, go back to the other page. I think our second toughest game. Okay. I'm a big Matt Rule fan. I think he's a damn good football coach. They've got a guy that started that was 5-star kid. They got him back, Raiola. They are a real tough place to play. Rule will be in year 3. I think Nebraska is going to be our second toughest game, and then I have Oklahoma and USC, but I have USC being a little tougher because we got to go 4 hours, Denny. We got to play on grass. I have USC as the 3rd toughest game, and then Oklahoma as the 4th. I know some people might differ with that, but that's how I see our first 4 toughest games. Then I have Michigan State as the 5th toughest. Michigan State might be every bit as tough to win as Oklahoma. Going there, crazy loud crowd, rival game. They put everything into winning that football game. Then I got Washington as our 6th toughest game. So, that's my order, Danny. Ohio State number 1, Nebraska number 2, USC 3, Oklahoma 4. I mean, you could put the 2, 3, 4 all together. They're all going to be – those are all brutally tough road games. USC, Nebraska, and Oklahoma. But I think Nebraska with the quarterback back will be a real tough game.
Yeah, Raiola. And if you follow the transfer portal, you know that they've grabbed a few – key offensive linemen, in the portal, and they are spending some money. It looks like they're in Lincoln too. That is going to be, I would think, a tough game. And I'm with you on Rule. I think he's a good.
Yeah, they got money, man. Warren Buffett, he's got money. The Huskers are spending money, and so that's where I see it. And we got to you better have a roster to go out there, man.
What do you make of Ohio State and their changes? They have 2 new coordinators that they're going to have to deal with. And Ryan Day just got a big time raise there after getting the national championship. But 2 new coordinators. How do you feel about that?
Well, Hartline has been there, so Hartline was always the recruiter. Danny. Sometimes when you look at I'm just going to try to keep it real. But sometimes when you look at a coaching staff, the guy who's coaching receivers, sometimes they don't always transfer into coordinator jobs. They might be the receiver coach. It's just something I've noticed over being around college football a long time. I don't know how many guys that were receiver coaches go on to be head coaches. You follow me? Just something.
Maybe more of a wild card. I mean, it's a big jump. It's a big jump.
Yeah, whatever. Sometimes you put the guy out there that is maybe he's a recruiter or whatever. But so anyway, he's been with Ryan Day a long time. He knows what they want to do. He's been in their meeting rooms with all the different offensive coaches they've had, and it's Ryan Day's offense. He has the final say. So, it might be a collaboration how they call plays. I'd like to think that Hartline would be the final play caller. But then I like it because anytime you have someone that's unproven, you don't know what you're going to get.
Right.
Maybe he'll make some mistakes. We'll see how much Ryan Day delegates to him. But, hopefully he's a guy that Wink can really, really zero in on and get an edge on. So that's what I'm hoping there. He's unproven. Because again, getting back to Nebraska, a guy that I don't like defending, and I've watched this guy is Dana Holgerson, the offensive coordinator in Nebraska. He's tough. So anyway, that's the deal with Hartline, unproven. Hopefully, he's a guy that's very average with all that great talent.
Yeah, I think when it comes to play callers, and especially the offensive one, you can have everything that you think that, hey, this guy has been, played the game and brought up in the system. He's got great talent, but then when he's got the play sheet and it's in there, and you have to have some rhythm, and yeah, you have everybody in your. It's just it's that different step. Some of those guys,
Danny, there's a skill to it, man.
right?
Some guys,
That's a good way to put it.
some guys I know, having coached defense, you really have the guy figured out. It's like playing poker, man. We're poker players, and you don't want to go against a guy like Dana Holgerson, because I watched that dude. He'll throw the bomb on first down, on his 5-yard line. So those guys are tough sometimes. He's like Ben Johnson, with the Lions, and there's an upside to that. There's a downside, but you don't get a beat on them, man. They're hard to figure out.
I hear you. Let's take a look at some of the players on the roster, and we start out at number 50. We've got a couple offensive linemen and Keyshawn Bennett sitting there. Let's go through some of these players. What do you think?
Well, Luke, number 50 hasn't had much clock yet, much of a run. But Crippen is back, okay? Now, it's interesting, Denny, that we're out there looking at Notre Dame center, okay? We got a kid, he's going to be a fifth-year guy, but we're recruiting Notre Dame's center who started every game for Notre Dame. So that's just interesting. But the kid ended up going somewhere else. I think he's going to Indiana, right?
Yep.
The centers go – anyway – try to dissect that. What's going on there? Did they not have a ton of faith in him? I thought he really improved as the year went on. So I'm glad he's back. I think that position is in good hands. So I'm glad Crippen's back. I'm glad the other guy went somewhere else.
It's kind of the same thing at guard. They had brought the two guards in, one from Cal Poly and one from Ferris State. And, you had Gio El-Hadi that was coming back. And they were going after Spindler in the transfer portal too. And I don't know, maybe they just say, look, we'd like you to come in and we'd like you to get a visit. And, here's what we think you could compete for the job. But I mean, those guys were coming in and you would think they would be coming in for starting spots. So even when you already look like you've got the competition set, there's always somebody that, that's, can come in and grab your spot like that almost.
Yeah. Denny, you can bring 105 guys in now that are basically not paying for school. So when you from a loyalty standpoint, I ask myself as a former player, why would they want to bring a guy in when Crippen paid his dues, was recruited out of high school, battled, started a complete year, and now you're going to bring another guy in? Well, the answer to that question is, look what the Lions did with all the players they lost. Look, you just have to have depth, man. You who knows what kind of injury-ridden season you're going to have. So it sucks for guys that are proven, but you have to put yourself in the coach's position, which I can relate to, that he's just got to build a complete roster. Bennett is a kid, Denny, 52. He was a good player out of high school, just always a backup. Never could, beat out a guy like Josiah Stewart. Just good, reliable backup. Played in the bowl game. Here's another guy, Cole Morgan. Hasn't had a lot of clock. Guerrera, I think they're high on. He's a young offensive lineman. I think
he's a backup center going in the spring.
Yeah, so yeah. Well, he is now, but then let's see what they do next year. Do they go get Ulu? Do they go get the kid from Stanford that Jim did? So I know they're high on him. I think he was a highly recruited kid. And Palapeli.
Poly, yeah.
Yeah, I watched. He's had a little bit of clock, in games, not much, but I watched him in practice, and he is a stout. I mean, he is a wide body. He's a 3 technique. He ain't going to get moved out of there. I can see why he was highly recruited. He's a guy that will compete. He might be a kid that might work into the rotation this year coming up.
I like it. Let's go. We got a few more on the list here. Sprague,
Sprague was really, really highly recruited. And, didn't get much clock. And then what do? They put Percy, they tell Percy, hit the road. We're starting Sprague in the bowl game. And I thought he did a pretty good job. He's a big, tall kid, physical kid. I got to believe he's going to be tough to beat out. So those two guys that came in and transferred in, I mean, that's going to be tough to beat him out having played him. A Phobie, is he still around, Denny?
Yeah.
Well, he's a I saw him. He's another big wide body guard. He plays guard. Do they have a ton of confidence in him? I don't know. They brought in these other two guards.
Right.
So
that makes me think they don't have confidence in him.
Yeah, that's what it makes you think. And then we all know about Mason Graham. So go ahead, scroll down. So a Phobie's he's got a tough road in front of him.
Mason Graham, you watch Jalen Carter for the Eagles last night, and you think, man, you want a guy like Mason Graham or Jalen Carter right there to be in your defense. Let's see if they're going to give us some more. Okay, yeah, they are. Let me scroll them down. There you got Jadis, he's out, and then you got
out. He was a kid that started a couple games at center, and Metzger. I think he may have been. He may have left.
Yeah.
But El Hadi is back, so I'm happy for him. He came back, fifth-year guys from my neighborhood, and I thought he had a good year. He improved. He really improved as the year went on. Paid his dues, and that's going to be an early pick, Denny. I'm going to say I bet you he's a captain.
I agree with you.
I think he might be a captain. Ishmael, did he leave?
Yeah,
I think all them guys, I don't, there's not much happening with these three guys here.
Yeah, a Barr flipped, I think, at first. I think he went over on the offensive side. We haven't heard much, and I do think that Ishmael.
Yeah, I think he's gone.
Yep.
So that's it at 60, and then we'll get a few more guys next week. But anyway, yeah, I've heard, I heard some things, guys talking about some different players, and I'm just going to bring up a name that a coach shared with me, a high school coach shared with me that Avery Gatz looked real good in the bowl practices. Tough, athletic kid. So again,
well, how far do you go? I know, Scar. You go back. You don't like the talking about the quarterback position or whatever else with our Mahomes discussion, but. Each and every show, somebody wants to know what you're thinking about with Bryce Underwood. And here's
I'll tell you what, man. I'm just hearing that our quarterback room is really, really good, Danny. It's like night and day. There's a lot of confidence amongst the players with our quarterback room, and and I think the coach is really well liked. Kids, this guy knows what he's doing, Lindsey. So there's a confidence level with the players in that quarterback room, and I think there's a high confidence level with the intellect and the way this guy coaches. Are we going to see more running, throwing? I don't know, but there's a guy stands in front of the team and talks and stands in front of the offense, and the players can you could sniff out weakness, man. You can sniff out a guy that don't seem to know what the hell he's talking about, but this guy has the confidence of the players.
Scar, let me give you the over or under.
Is Michigan starting? There was a question there, Denny. Is Michigan starting a freshman quarterback?
Yeah.
I tell you what, I just think that that room is good. He could start a game by the end of the year. The big question will be, the New Mexico game is crucial. Him and Keene will probably share a lot of time in that game. And then the question will become, do you want to go to Oklahoma with a true freshman? How much do you want, is that what you want to do? If obviously the kid's making a lot of money. They've invested a lot of money in him. He's a damn good player. But
my hope is that he starts from the first game against New Mexico, that he's that good all the way through. He's just this prodigy, but I'm not going to predict that that's going to happen, but that would be my hope. If I was a Michigan fan, say, look, just get him out there right away. Let's go. You want to see him, and you're going to see him for at least 3 years, and you're off and running. However, if I had to look at it, it would be reasonable and give a prediction. I would say that not the New Mexico game, not the Oklahoma game, not CMU, not Nebraska that you mentioned going on the road, but After that Nebraska game, they have a bye and they come back for Wisconsin. I think that Bryce Underwood will start his first game for Michigan against Wisconsin on October the 11th.
Jenny, if I'm coaching that team and it's clear going through spring ball and then going through camp, I'm just thinking about me if I'm in that position.
Yeah,
I want to make that decision as soon as possible. I want to make it as soon as possible because if the main objective again for me is always to win the Big Ten championship. So that gives you 3 games before you go to Nebraska. So I would want to get that kid as many reps as possible before you go to Nebraska. So you figure that out like you may, but I do think that the room is damn good, which is a great problem.
Well, it's nice of
Antoine. Listen, man. I agree with Antoine. I think Denny. If you ask me, what we did with JJ, we won a Big Ten championship with Cade McNamara. We got JJ gradually comfortable, gradually confident. Learned from watching the older guy make mistakes, this, that, or whatever, and then he was ready to go. So. There's nothing wrong with that, but he could be. This could speed up faster. But I think that's a good plan. But there's a lot of people. Hey, you're paying a lot of money for this kid.
Well, that can't be that can't be the factor. It's got to be that he's the best player to have out on the field. It doesn't matter if.
I know. I just wondered, Danny. I'm not the guy shelling out that money.
You think Jolyn after the Oklahoma game, she's going to call in and says, "Where's that quarterback I paid for?"
I don't know, Danny. But I think our room is good. And let me just say this too. We watched Philly win the football game, and I believe that the quarterback run is a big part of the reason they won. The predetermined run plays that they had for Hurts. Because it just is a problem, man. Again, Notre Dame 9 times that first drive, 9 times they ran the quarterback. Okay, what does that have to do? Well, the faster we get him ready, up and running and rolling, Bryce Underwood, it gives you more confidence to not be afraid to run either quarterback at any time. When we go to Oklahoma, the coach should feel free and confident to say, screw it, I'm running little Mikey Keene in there. I'm running Underwood in there. I don't give a damn. Make the defense deal with it, and you can't be worried about the guy getting hurt.
I like where you're at. Yep. Well, so tomorrow the Michigan basketball team has this huge game against Purdue. They've only lost 5 games all year long, Scar, and 4 of them, I think they lost by 1, 2, 1, maybe 3 points in the 4 games, and then they lost by 27 to Purdue. They came out, they turned the ball over right away. They got crushed right away. They got down big. They couldn't shoot to save their life. I mean, they look terrible. Now, I've seen plenty of times in college basketball where a team looks like that on the road, and then they come back home, and then they win the game. So that's what you're hoping as a Michigan fan. But, look, this is for first place in the Big Ten. Michigan is, if I would have told you before the season that they would be like somewhere like a 4, 5, 6, 7 seed, and they'll be in the tournament. They'll be playing for a chance with 8 games to go, with 5 at home to win the Big Ten regular season. Everybody would be like, "Wow, man, that's great." So it has been great. We'll see how much they're able to prove tomorrow.
Home court, Danny. We've been good at Chrysler, man. We've got good players. Dusty May is a flat out stud. I love listening to him. Big win at Indiana. That's not an easy place to win. Period. Nope. Wolf was outstanding. We got to. Our crowd's got to be a factor, and we got to play well. Purdue's They lost at home to I think somebody beat them at home. Maryland or somebody. Anyway, Danny, I tell you something. I listened to Danny Wolf after he was the difference in that game.
Yeah, he was
Indiana. I listened to his interview, And if I was coaching again, I didn't do this, but if I was coaching again, I would have my players listen to maybe players getting interviewed that are on my team. Danny Wolf, the guy's the most humble team guy. Everything he said was all about his teammates, all about deflecting praise, I just loved what he had to say, and giving praise to his teammates and his coaches, and that's a sign of a coach that has the players with the right mindset for them to be interviewed and say the right things.
Ohio State beat.
Yeah, that's right. Ohio State's a team that's up, and they got players, man. We got to go there. That's going to be a tough one. Going to Nebraska are two of the tougher games on our schedule. And obviously we got Michigan State, but hey, we're in the mix, man. I guess Bobby Knight used to tell Dusty and his coaches, try to get your team to be in position to be in position late in the season. That was the Bobby Knight quote. Be in position to be in position, to win the Big Ten championship. And that's where Michigan is. We got 8-9 games left?
8, 5 at home.
And we are in position, to possibly win a Big Ten championship. So
Dusty was quoting John Beilein today. He said, think big, but focus small. And that's what the focus was on the game tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, you can't worry about anything but this game. And the hell with the next week, the next day, that's the next possession, man. Worry about the next possession. But they are a fun team to watch. He made a change. He put Roddy Gale on the bench, and he put the other Reuben Jones in there. But we got a good coach. I just hope he doesn't start sniffing around Indiana. That's where he's from. Sounded pretty confident, but you never know. Guy gets to go back home. And Indiana's got Mark Cuban. They got some big money too.
Yeah, that's right. You never know. So it happened fast there in Indiana. Guy just came around, kind of like Wink. You like Wink to stay around for a little longer too. But with Dusty, you're hoping that he can stay around for 10 years, at least. So
yeah, my friend who's coaching, he said that the feedback he gets is that the players just love Wink. They love him. People were saying, he was hard to deal with at first. And let me also say this: Herb Street's kid. There was a report that he's a walk-on. He's a preferred walk-on. Well, let me tell you something. There ain't no more damn walk-ons anymore.
Right.
No one's paying for school anymore. Okay, a kid like that, he's not paying for school. Just wanted to make that clear.
Yeah, all 105 are on equal footing. Right.
So
there's
whether he's getting, it's not a scholarship in the old school way, but it's an NIL deal where they pay for his schooling and just reimburse. He does it. It's whatever. It's NIL funded.
I kind of like that. This is just the inner part. But Scar, when you were back, like if you were a walk-on, they had like the food that was put out afterwards. Like the walk-ons couldn't go over there and have that. Right?
Danny, it sucked.
Yeah.
Those were the rules. Those were the rules, man. The walk-ons had to go. They didn't have nothing. They couldn't get nothing. Sometimes you might get a guy to give. I used to give a tag to a guy so he could go eat at the dorm. Because I wasn't eating at the dorm, I would eat my training table food. You follow me?
Yeah.
So yeah, it was terrible for those guys. Got nothing, just nothing. True.
Yeah. Well, and now everybody's the same. I kind of like that part.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
So,
all right. Well, great job, Scar. Go talk to some more of those coaches.
Well, some of them, they're just coaches. They're high school coaches that I talk to, and some of them they talk to their players or they talk to kids. But there's a lot of confidence with this offensive coordinator, a lot of confidence with the quarterback room. So I don't know what happened if you lost me, Denny. But